welcome the next speaker, all the way far away from the other side of some water. Hi, Jonas. God morgon. So I am so happy to get you here, and I'm so interested to hear what made you guys the Swedish API winners. You must have some amazing API.
Hi, and thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So,
I can
yeah,
see your slides. So are you kind of eager to go on?
of course, of
Yeah,
course. I mean, this is
correct.
would be really, really funny, and then be able to share some knowledge that we're having around APIs. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So go ahead, start the presentation.
Yes. Hey, everyone. So, and thanks for having me. My name is Jonas Södergren from Arbetsförmedlingen, the Swedish Public Employment Service. And today I will talk a little bit about our APIs. And as you see, we won an award last year for the best Swedish API. So I will try to share our journey around APIs. So, and I am a programmer and a product manager for open data program and APIs, you could say. So I will start with saying that today you will not see anything about blockchain or some other cool technology or something like that. I mean, what we have done is basically try to keep it simple and be building APIs for everyday use. So we have a lot of users, a couple of hundreds organization is using our data. It's in production. We serve millions of transactions basically every week. So, and it creates value for the society. And that's the end goal. So I think basically that was the reason why we did win in the end. It creates value. So, yeah. So I'm working in a unit in the public employment service, and the only thing that we actually do is producing APIs. So there are no end user interfaces or something like that. We produce APIs, and if you look at the outcome, I mean. The goal here is that, I mean, in the last 50 years, the labor market itself has changed, gone from monopoly to decentralized, fragmented a market. I mean, there are a lot of companies trying to match and working with matching. A lot of recruitment companies, tech companies, and so on. And and the labor market has ended up in a situation. I mean, you need to put your CV in a lot of systems. And I mean, if you Google on jobs, you don't find all the jobs there are in Sweden. It's probably the same situation in Finland. And so we need to try to find sustainable business models with private and public sector and trying to involve the citizens. So we need to try to create these models. And I mean, that's the end goal, to create sustainable models so more companies could help job seekers and employers to get the right competence and find the right job. So that's the outcome. So the output is APIs, and what we are doing is taking resources. I mean, we have a regulation in Europe and the public sector information. We should try to share as much data as possible. So the data itself is our resource. So as an organization, we take the data and produce APIs. And for our organization, we have values, and we're trying to be open as much as possible. So everything we do is open source. The only thing we're using is open source, and the system itself that we are producing is open source. So this is some kind of intro here. Yes. And first, I would say that, I mean, APIs itself is the enabler for the ecosystems, the new kind of integrations, and we have some core principles that we're trying to live by. And the first is we really try to minimize thresholds and obstacles for others to join and help out and use things and collaborate with us. And I mean, that's a really important point. So it should be easy. Sometimes, I mean, a state could have a big budget, and then maybe a startup doesn't have a big budget. So we need to be realistic in our plans, how to cooperate and collaborate with others in whatever we do, actually. So minimize is really important. And try to respect each other. I mean, we need to create win-win situation in every integration we do, and make sure that I mean, the private sector business models, it should work for them, and it should work for us with our regulations. So create win-win situation. Otherwise, it's hard to get collaborating started. And really try to design for contributions from the start. I mean, if you build an API or product and get to the market 1 or 2 years later, I mean, it's not so. We need to make sure that everyone is with us from start. So we're trying for design for contribution is important, and give back. I mean, we are a state, so we are funded by tax money. So we really think that we should give everything back that we do. So, I mean, the last year, I would say, some concrete things that I have been thinking about, and I think is, for starter, I mean, when we started, I mean, value is not the same as an API itself. So, I mean, we noticed that in the beginning of this journey, we actually have a lot of data, open data, and it's somewhere on the internet. No one is using it. So, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't create value. So we need to put the data in use in other companies. So, and I think so, and that is quite usually a hard job. So we really think that getting the API and the data in use is the most important thing. So it's not enough to put the data on the internet. So and in the beginning as well, I mean, we designed a lot of APIs actually. And the only thing that a lot of companies was interesting is, I mean, I don't care about the API, give me the data. So we're trying to make things more simpler and simpler over time. So the business value is usually in the availability. Can I reach the data or not? And if it's the latest REST design or if it's the old XML design, it doesn't really matter in the end. It should be simple to use the API. I mean, that's one important thing, really think. And I said in the intro, public money should imply public code. And so we noticed as well that we put some data and simple use API on everyone to use. And but then ended up in a situation where, I mean, okay, now we have the data, but it's hard to actually use the data itself because I mean, it could be complicated to understand how to really see something around in a job ad, for example. What is really the competences that the employer are trying to reach out to, and it's in unstructured form, for example. So it was really hard to use the data. But I mean, we have worked on those questions for a long time. So when we shared our code as well with the data, then it could get a lot of users that could get started quite easily when we share the data and the code. So public money should imply public code is important principles. And other things that we have come to understanding to is this around API keys. I mean, this is open APIs. So we have a goal to saying that everyone should be able to access the data in seconds or minutes. And API keys is really a hurdle in that way. You should register, you should have an account, and so on. So we get rid of that all at once. So our API is really open, so everyone could use it. You don't need to tell us that you should use it. And in the beginning, I mean, we was worried about denial of service attacks and that kind of things. But in the end, I mean, you need to handle that regardless if it's an API or a regular website. So no API keys if it's an open API, I think. And another thing was, I mean, in the beginning with the consumption of APIs, we had service license agreements and that kind of legal documents. But I mean, in the end, if we say that we have some kind of availability around our APIs, that is something we say. But how should you know that we actually have that availability? If you're starting a new business, are you really trusting us to provide a service to you that you could rely upon? So then we started with another approach that, okay, don't promise so much to the users, but instead we could show what kind of availability we actually have. So we are trying to open up the data around our production environment. So you could see what kind of availability there are, what kind of performance is there, and so on, in the usage of the APIs. So we are sharing all that kind of data openly as well. So then our users could take a look at the data around APIs and make a decision. Do we trust this? Is this something that we could use in our business? So be open with that, I think, is important for us. And so the winner was an API called JobStream, and it's really simple. It's a subscription of new job ads. So the user can download new ads for the day, and a lot of organizations use it at one. So it's super simple. And we have more advanced APIs that we are doing more work around. For example, job search, how to search and retrieve ads, and then really trying to figure out if you're searching for system developers, how to get a really good match. And this is AI-powered solution based on Elasticsearch in the bottom. And we have another thing. So we are cooperating with the private sector when we actually collecting and scraping the private sectors for job ads in collaboration. They know this, of course. This is collaboration. And there are a lot of scientists working with this with job ads, for example, historical ads. So we are publishing all job ads that ever existed in Sweden, so everyone could train AI algorithms and build new services and so on. So there are an API family, you could say, around job ads. And the one API that we don't work so much with is JobStream, because it's really simple, really cost effective. And then the jury called us and said that, okay, we think that you have the best API in Sweden, and it's the JobStream. And we got, what? I mean, we're not working with that one so much. We have AI, we have everything else, and really cool APIs that all of us as well is in use. But just the fact that it's simple, cost-effective, and used of everyone every day was the reason that is won. So, and you can see I'm trying to publish the links to the APIs. You should be able to get started with 3 clicks, I think. Go to the links, you going directly to the Swagger, and you can try it out. So So we're really working on trying to how to make simple APIs to get everyone started in a easy way. Yes.
Yes. So
And
sorry, I
wait,
thought we were at the end of the presentation already, but it was just a pause.
it was a pause.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry for that. So another thing we are working with is trying to have the architecture itself open. So we are usually working when we're processing data in you could say pipe and filter architecture. And the reason for that is we really want several organizations trying to building the vacancy bank in Sweden. So a lot of internal teams are working with this architecture and external organizations as well. So we are putting every function together in the end and building up our vacancy bank. So having a architecture that supports that many can contribute and join the effort to building a better Sweden, we're thinking is a important thing as well. And so I would say that kiitos and kysymyksiä.
Okay, very nice pronunciation. Thank you, Jonas. Ska vi snacka svenska nu? So maybe we'll stick to English. It goes better for me too. So I think that there might be some questions coming from the audience, but in the meanwhile, I think that it's an interesting decision that you guys made about keeping the API very open. I mean, I can totally see the point of it, but then there is that denial of service and how do you even inform people who are using the API how like if there's some change to it or some disruption or something, how have you kind of resolved these things?
So in the beginning, the reason why we actually had the API keys was that we need to be able to contact everyone. But that gets really messy really fast. So what we did was to build up a separate organization for having a open forum when everyone could register if they want to. We continuously have information about new changes and so on. So we built up a separate forum on the side. So we are separating the APIs from the customer support and customer service.
Yes. So that sounds really great. But what about the kind of denial of service stuff? You must have some amazing caching strategies or something to keep the API alive, or is that a risk assumption that if it's not alive, then nobody dies?
You could say, I mean, this is important services for a society, so it's important. The availability is important, but in the risk assessment, we're saying that, I mean, for the regular website, there are a lot of denial of service attacks. So we need to handle that. We handle it on the infrastructure level. But in the beginning, we said that maybe an attacker maybe can't attack us if we have an API key. But then we thought about it and say, but the attacker never wants to have an API key anyway. So it's only the one that are doing good that want to have an API key. So we turned it off.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, that works too, as long as you say, you have that infrastructure support there, and that is the important thing. So now there are some questions coming in. Mats is asking, does it work? Are folks using it on super light mobile apps, or is it very heavy? I think that's the kind of question thought there.
Yes.
So what kind of clients do you have?
I mean, the usually user is medium-sized companies that trying to get the data on a daily basis and put it in their own system. That is the normal use case. But for other vacancy banks, there are a lot of use cases and the services that using this as an online service to their end users or making a question to this API. So I would say there are every use cases that are implemented in some way. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So Samsa wants to know, what are the main factors that help you keep APIs as simple as possible?
This was a hard one. Trying to, in the beginning, we had a lot of features in the APIs, but we are regularly trying to remove those and only supporting a core use case. Like I want to get all the job ads. I want to search on job ads. I want to, as a scientist, I want to have access to put it in my Jupyter notebook. We have some kind of core use cases and try to not to go outside of that scope. As I said in the beginning, we have a lot of features, but we're trying to remove them. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are treating it kind of like a very clear API product with a very clear value proposition, like the other speakers on day 2 are going to tell everybody to do. So really kind of narrow down the scope.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and as treating the API as a product, and but we're trying to separate from what creates value for the user and what creates values for the society. And from a user perspective, there are a lot of demands of new features. But when we're putting it in the lights of value from the society, a lot of user features are not really creating society value.
Yeah.
So that is a measurement we're trying to live by.
I think that is making a lot of sense in a lot of public sector APIs, that you always have to think about the strategy. Like we were talking with Monica Posada and had a conversation with the UK government, for example, that it's really, you need to think about what kind of society do you want to support with that. Like, actually, that's something that you might not think about when designing an API, that what is going to be the impact to the kind of policies and the strategies of the society as a whole with this API. And I think that's very interesting that you have really thought about that through. But hey, thank you so much, Jonas, for taking the boat over here in Helsinki virtually. So thank you, and hope to see you and some other Swedish great APIs in the next Apidays Helsinki and North. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.